Hey everybody, welcome back to another Stoneface Reactions. I'm Griffin, that's Theta, and we are here to read some more Vanadis Hearts. And we got a comment today, so let's see what everybody has to say. We have Emirate here with the world's longest comment. Let's see what he has. Thank you so much for your analysis of Chapter 3 of Vanadis Heart. I enjoy all your in-depth commentary and discussion. I'm very much enjoying all the story developments in the manga. I enjoy your contemplation of all the significant moments in this chapter. I also enjoy all of your observations of the important plot points in this chapter. I look forward to your coverage of the next chapter of the manga. I hope that you continue on with manga until its conclusion. Thank you again. Follow-up comment. I wanted to focus on an interesting observation you made during this chapter that could have important implications. Your observation that if the Gundam Lifrith Jiu was destroyed, it could mean the death of Kiyu. I wanted to get your thoughts on that potential scenario. If the manga were to take the story in such a direction, what could it mean for Vilda? While Vilda does serve as a guardian for Kiyu, I came away from the sense that Kiyu is very important to Vilda. His optimism, his positive nature, confidence, and charisma helps Vilda. Kiyu gives Vilda purpose. He helps her remain on a righteous path. She wants to protect and keep him safe, and so that he can go on to live a happy, fulfilling life. All that she does for her for
You having a
sorry,
hard day
sentence threw me
today?
off. All that she does for him, she does for his sake. If the manga were to have Kiyu face a tragic fate, I could see the grief of losing Kiyu causing Vilda to spiral down a very dark path. It could be a potential scenario where this heartache and pain causes Vilda to become a villain. Now consider the opposite. What if Vilda were the one to face a tragic fate? Where does that leave Kiyu? I don't know if he becomes an outright villain, given his personality characteristics as a person. But it does leave him very vulnerable. Without Vilda to serve as a parental figure, it could be difficult for Kiyu to manage on his own. I imagined a scenario where the sinister forces pursuing Kiyu and Vilda are taking advantage of Kiyu's vulnerability as a result of Vilda's death and using him and the Gundam Lifrith Jiu for their own sinister purposes. I personally would prefer both Kiyu and Vilda surviving and living on. I want to see Q and Vilda live on to the future, the present time period of the anime. I would love to see what their lives look like. I would also really love to see Q and Vilda potentially cross paths with Suletta, Bjorn, and all the characters of the anime. I would love to see what types of interactions Q and Vilda would have with everyone from the anime. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. I would love to know your thoughts. What would you want from Q? What would you want for Q and Vilda? A happy ending or a tragic ending? So, that was a bit of a mouthful. So, Theta, I'll let you go first. Happy or tragic, and either one of them dying. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't want a tragic ending, but this is the only one that's not really, inspired by the Shakespearean play, and it doesn't have to follow the nothing really bad happens. I mean, I can't even say that. Every time I say no one really dies, I think back to the rows of gravestones in the school at the end of the second shooting, and
Yeah.
the three friends crying over one of the graves, or I'm sorry, one of the body bags, because they used to be six friends at the start of the show.
Yup.
So yeah, but I mean, okay, I'm gonna level with you here. Uh, I thought about maybe not, but I'm just gonna say it straight out. By the time of the recording, Chapter 5 is already out, and I have perused it a little bit. So, my thoughts are a little bit influenced by that now. I mean, I was thinking to myself, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. And then I thought, oh, okay, I'll be fine. This chapter is kind of separated from what's going on with our main characters. Won't be influenced at all. And then here's a question. Hey, that thing that you thought that the next chapter is probably going to bring up. It's like, oh. I mean, I'm still in on the thought that Q is going to meet an unfortunate end if they get a certain distance away from the GU, or if the GU is destroyed. that was laid out for us by Vilda, and I don't feel like it's much of a theory at this point. It's just something that's
truth.
yeah, and yeah, I mean they kind of have that relationship. Kyu seems really naive, I'll say.
Yeah.
Like Kyu, it seems almost to the point that Kyu doesn't understand the world that he lives in.
They definitely have that childlike perspective of like not understanding the full consequence of every action that they're going to take. It's like, oh yeah, I think the short-term action is good. And then they get in the GU and show it off to everyone in the town. It's like, oh, I didn't consider the long term. What was about the age that Kyu's supposed to be here? Did they ever mention an actual number?
Not to my knowledge.
I would guess somewhere like between 10 to 16 as a starting guess, right?
I mean, how would you know? This is the age where we can fill people with cybernetics.
Yeah.
Kyu could just be completely artificial for all we know. Or cloned, as we already know, people can just be straight up cloned from their brothers and sisters.
Yeah, that's also true. There's no way of knowing necessarily here. But the vibe I get is that they're definitely still a young child to young teenager, I think. So they will be making impulsive actions, and maybe not necessarily considering everything around them. Even if they know about the world, they still won't stop to think about it. But I suppose if I were to go ahead and give my perspective on it, Kyu and Vilda are definitely a pair, and if one of them is going to die, it's probably going to be Vilda at the very end via tragic sacrifice, right? I think our commenter here went ahead and pointed out pretty well. Kyu is probably not very likely to like go on a villain path if they lose their mentor. They are a nice young kid. They are going to remember all the good things and probably try their hardest to get a happy ending for everyone else.
If there's one thing we know about children, it's how emotionally stable they are.
Yeah, exactly. This will definitely pan out forever in the future with no... Yeah. But that's just the implicit perspective I have here, because it would make sense from a narrative standpoint that the way that Vilda is set up with a brother who was dying that she wanted to save, and then failing that, and now having a brand new, younger male figure in her life that she specifically has the ability to save, that she would absolutely do literally anything. I think there's definitely potential for Vilda to go down some fun paths here. Not villainy. I mean, she very specifically knows what she wants here. But definitely probably hurting people. As far as happy or tragic ending, I think the tragic ending will be really fun for me. I think that's the one that I'm foreseeing most obviously in my head.
I mean, Vilda kind of is already the villain to my eyes. So, the idea isn't that she's out trying to hurt people. The idea is that she's doing something she thinks is good, but turns out to not be good.
Right. Ultimately, a child on a 300-meter leash is still never going to be good in any regard, right?
Well, 800-meter.
800-meter, okay. Got the number wrong.
Well, it's not about that. I mean, say that you had the cure for cancer, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, I've got the fucking cure for cancer. And you go out on, like, a crusade to fucking cure cancer. But then it turns out that your cure for cancer causes premature Alzheimer's, right? That's horrible. That's fucking horrible. You thought you were doing good. In fact, you have cursed a lot of people to a really horrible fate.
But you see, if we do the math, they actually got more years of life. The flaws of utilitarianism.
Well, my point was more that you could do good. You'd be trying to do good and still cause a bad thing if it's set up that way.
I think, like, in terms of tragedy, that would probably be the tragedy of Vilda, of trying to do the right thing, but consistently ending up in this super science zone of unexpected externalities. And I think that's fun, because she's just actively on the road trying to deal with it. Wherever she's going, she thinks has a solution to the problem that is currently being faced.
Well, no, remember, she's running from something.
I thought she was specifically going to somewhere as well.
She's running from a place.
Okay, that's fair, that's fair.
I mean, we have no idea if she's running to a place. We know that they're trying to get away from, and the space elevator is constantly being shown.
Yep. So I guess it's just up to us to see who's pursuing her and why. And I suppose with that, why don't we go ahead and get over to the manga?
Alright. Let's see. We start this chapter looking at an assortment of either water hyacinth or watercress, neither of which is native to North America, so the first panel is already blowing our location theories out of the water if the rest of this chapter takes place anywhere near where the main characters are. The second panel then shows a splash over those plants as something large and metallic stomps over them. In the final panel, we then get to see that it was the foot of a mobile suit in the midst of escorting a convoy of mobile workers and at least what appears to be one command vehicle.
So you said it's not native to North America, the watercress. Where is it native to? What are our options here?
I don't specifically remember. Most of the ones that I tried to match the flowers to were either South America or Asia, or India, Asia, that kind of region.
South America definitely could very much work here if we're still following the same coast. That is, assuming that this action is happening in the same location as our hero's action, right?
That's what I said. Assuming that the rest of the chapter is anywhere near where the main characters are. I think, not to spoiler alert here, but I think we could pretty much say it might not be.
The thing that I think I'm still waiting for is someone to say a real place name at some point. That'll be fun.
Well, you're going to be satisfied next chapter.
Yay! Woo!
I think, maybe.
But I definitely love the long shot here. It's definitely great getting like the perspective of the mobile suits versus just natural environment. I very much love that.
Alright, moving to a 2-page spread. We get one of those high orbit shots that spans out over the horizon and shows off the landscape below. Wherever we are is filled with rivers, lakes, and swampland as far as the eye can see. My first thought would be the Everglades, if not for the fact that the plant life that I suspect being shown is more akin to South America or Asia. There, I wrote it. All you had to do was wait a minute. We then see the formation is communicating with one another over radio, complementing the Spacian mobile suit's ability to handle marshy environments. But then being shut down by a figure in a baklava standing on the command vehicle, reminding them that they are in the middle of an op. This group is running an ECM jammer in order to avoid being spotted by Spacian security forces, avoiding areas with high levels of alert in order to conserve resources in unnecessary fighting. Just as all of that is being explained to us, our mystery commanders spots a fog front rolling in, except that we then see projectiles being emitted from it.
Ah, yes. So, fair to say the person in the baklava in this panel is definitely the commander, and they're probably about to explode. I think one of my initial impressions was that they were hunting the Spacian suit, but I think now they're actually trying their best to run or avoid from it. What do you think?
Well, as I've already stated, they're not hunting the Spacian suit because they're avoiding Spacian security.
Right.
And trying to avoid fights.
But I think it is a good bit of lampshading for what is about to happen next. And of course, more just nice landscape.
Our next 2-page spread show one of the Spacian mobile suits being torn in half by the explosion of one of the projectile impacts. While the explosion visibly blows parts of the mobile suit across the convoy, the commander remains focused on identifying the threats as they scan the sky, spotting what seems to be another mobile suit hovering in the air on a pair of energy wings. It looks reminiscent to Gundam 00's wings, just a lot more wispy in nature. It's either that or it's intended to be the source of the fog and not the mechanism of flight. I suppose that is what the last panel implies, a close-up of the two glowing rings we saw from a distance and the vents on the sides of them that seem to be billowing out fog or steam.
You definitely beat me to the Double O comparison for sure, which is where I would go. Like, floating in the sky, wing-like strands coming off of it. I do think it's just a fog generator, though. I don't think that's, like, how it flies. It still has the engines there and everything. But ultimately, this is definitely just half a second away from someone going, it's a Gundam.
Oh, man, you're going to love Chapter 5.
Oh, boy.
The next panel is another 2-page spread, giving us a close-up of the suit's face and body. The last image from the last page being an extreme close-up of its chest, evidently. As we can see, it's glowing rings and vents extending out from there as opposed to the rings on its head. On closer inspection, we can also make out some discerning features that serve to identify the make of the suit. Predominantly, it has the lines of permit built into it like every Gundam thus far seen. It also appears to have 2 back-mounted cannons, no doubt the source of the fire from before. A single shot capable of destroying a mobile suit. Its left hand is also extended a physical sword. If I had to make a guess, I would have to say this is an early Ox Earth prototype, given its resemblance to the Lifrith pre-production model series, as well as the weaponry of the Thorn and we would later see.
Yeah, that definitely, like, checks out with this, of course, being sort of a prequel to Witch for Mercury, right, in terms of time? So yeah, this being the pre-production model, having little bits of it later, and later they specialize it, makes sense, at least, on the surface of it. I'm gonna trust your judgment, because you've definitely been all in on all the models.
Well,
and I think you know what you're talking about.
You remember Season 2, when they go to Earth?
Mm-hmm.
And Prosper goes to a hangar, where there's just a bunch of pre-production models. It even scans them and says, "Oh, that one looks like Thorn, and that one looks like They have a bunch of them left over, so they made more than what we just saw on Falk Wagner.
Right. So there we go, more Ox Earth shenanigans.
All right, next. In this 1-page super panel, we get a full-on back shot of the Gundam as it hurtles down at the convoy. While it might be lacking in energy wings like I previously guessed, it appears to have turbines built into its heels and jets in its thighs to allow it to fly. It also seems to have 2 physical swords instead of just the one from last panel. The convoy below also appears to be charging forwards towards the threat attacking them, leaving their exploded comrade behind.
So, the jets definitely are a very funny addition, because normally I don't think of a Gundam as specifically designed to work in atmosphere, right? A jet works, of course, by, taking in air, pushing it out a little hotter, a little faster. So those would never work in space. This person is meant for Earth.
Yeah, well, I mean, tanks have jet engines in them.
Yeah, that's true, but I never think a jet tank is gonna work in space, that's for sure.
Right, I'm just saying, you make the comparison, the Gundam is just a very humanoid tank. Tanks have jet engines, Gundams have jet engines, apparently.
Yeah. But I definitely think it does give us a signal about what the creators of this Gundam are about or want to do. They want the Earth.
That's in the name, Ox Earth.
Yeah. Next panel.
We then see that the convoy is indeed charging forwards as the masked leader calls for an intercept on their attacker. We previously saw that they had 5 mobile workers remaining on top of their 2 mobile suits. And now we see them kick in action. The 2 that are flanking the command vehicle seem to be equipped with rather large caliber guns, a weapon that rarely sees effect in any Gundam anime. Less touched upon in the manga I've read so far, but my bet would still be one of doubtful effectiveness. The 3 remaining workers, forming a line between the mobile suit and the command vehicle, are loaded with multiple rocket launchers, also of dubious effect, but more so than guns have ever been. All of them open fire at the approaching Gundam.
I definitely love the design of these little Katushka crawlers here. Like, it's so adorable, just like the way they have like the brakes slapped on top of them. And of course, like the little action panel for them, I think like very much like does a great job of like showing off the motion of the action happening here. I think this is a great little bit of the action.
Well, I mean, they remind me more of the mobile workers from IBO, except that they have more space on top. They're probably a lot larger.
Yeah, actually designed for combat mobile workers, basically. Yeah.
All right. With a close-up of the Gundam's face, I believe the choice to darken its features was done to intentionally highlight the glowing lines of permit in order to inform us that it's activated a permit score of some level and isn't just operating as normal. We then pan back to see the many contrails of approaching missiles as they converge from many different angles. I'm just correct now that I do go back and forth on saying missiles and rockets, so just take that for what it is.
You're probably one of those people who says clip too.
Or magazine. Due to the unmoving nature of drawn media, it is sort of hard to tell what is going on in the last 2 panels, as the explosions appear to be happening all over the skyline. I figure this either implies that the Gundam is dodging or destroying the missiles as they approach, and we just aren't seeing the Gundam move around, or the guns I mentioned earlier are actually flak cannons, and that some of the explosions are just their rounds exploding in the sky, detonating missiles in the process, maybe.
Yeah.
Either way, the thing we don't see on these last 2 panels is the Gundam getting hit, dodging, or doing anything to show us where the explosions cover the sky, and not just where we had seen it before.
I would like to throw out to you a third option of permit-controlled missiles at the last second.
That would imply it's still the movement, because the explosions are happening across the sky, and we don't see anything being launched from any other position in the sky towards the incoming. They're not playing side command.
My assumption is that maybe they could be spread out away from the target, and that's the way it defends itself. But again, like you said, we're not seeing any motion, but Gundam taking 1,000 missiles to the face and being okay is basically a classic. What I really like about this, so with the way that they darken the Gundam here, this is not just artistic choice here. They put it into the scene. It is diegetic. It has literally hooked itself up against the sun here in order to darken it on the other side. They kept it fully within the environment. I love that cute little detail. That is great for me.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it's better when things are diegetic because then it's not being explained by like the narrator or the text of the situation. It's literally of the world.
And you don't have to ask where the wind's coming that's blowing the cape, right?
Right. Right. On our next page, I guess the rockets have proximity fuses or something, as we can clearly see half of them exploding well before they ever reach their target. As the rest close in, we zoom in on the Gundam, as it seems to be dancing itself through the chaos, moving from a crouched pose with its weapons extended out to either side into an outward leap, dodging the explosions happening all around it.
Yeah, I like the motion of this scene. It definitely gives the impression that it is going from its defensive posture before up to the aggressive one, and we are about to get a whole bunch of other things exploding, but on the ground now.
I mean, I did actually try to look up what the dance move was called, because it's a recognizable thing. Like, have you ever seen... It's not Footloose, is it? Is it Footloose? When she's dancing in the warehouse, and if she does that little crouch, like, bring the arms in, crouch, and then... outward, chest out sort of move.
I haven't seen it, unfortunately, so you'd be my primary source right now.
Well, it happens in, like, a lot of things. Like, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but it happens in, like, a lot of media where someone is dancing. Because I guess it's just the best way to explode outwards into a leap. where you extend one leg behind you, chest outwards, arms behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I can see I'm landing falsely here for you.
Well, I mean, like, I can't comment. I'm not much of a dancer. It's been 2 decades since I've danced anything.
It's been 1 week. Anyway, in the next scene, I am guessing we get the explanation, what the explanation is, as we see the Gundam toss its 2 swords, which then go spinning through the air and start cutting their way through lines of incoming rockets.
I gotta say, as far as defense mechanisms go, this is positively absurd, but you know what? I'm here for it. It's cool.
I mean, it's not that absurd. I'm just thinking like how like the not the B-52, whatever the stealth bomber's actual designation is so unwieldy in the air that it has to have a complete computer system just to compensate for how non-aerodynamic it is.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't be too far off the off kilter just to say there's something inside the swords just to balance out their centrifugal spin to keep them projected in the right direction.
Well, I mean, like, if I were to, like, go ahead and put, like, my sci-fi lens on, I would say my critique is, if it's going to cut something that's going to explode and then that thing explodes, either A, it gets knocked wildly about by the forces, and so it would have to restabilize, it's not going to continue perfectly spinning, or B, it's an object in an explosion, it'll take some injury or damage and then become useless. Reusable throwing sword missile defense isn't necessarily practical. But, you know what? We're having some fun. It's fine. It's cool.
mean, you yourself are the one that stated the fact that we see Gundams get hit to the face by dozens of missiles before. It's made of the same material, probably. Why not?
It's all Gundamium, of course.
Well, I mean, all Gundamium is just moon metal.
Right.
In the next 2-page spread, we see rockets targeting different points in the sky, converging on them and exploding, with the context of the swords being additional targets, I guess. This makes more sense than anything else. It also implies that the guns are so little of a threat that the manga doesn't even take any time to cover, outsmarting them. Guns remain useless in Gundam. We are also shown that the swords are just like the Schwartz gun bits, in that they are self-controlled and sword-styled. The convoy commander is of course confused by this, thinking they are some sort of new drone tech, which of course makes sense given the last big war was the drone war. They then order them for them to be targeted directly as they are heading right for them.
They aren't wrong necessarily. But I like our big splash screen of all of those explosions that the fight just defending against these missiles has spread everywhere, and you can actually see more trails incoming. I think some of those might actually be the gun bits up there too. Prior to like their extra reveal and zoom in down below. The chaos of it definitely comes through on this page.
Alright. Noting that the gun bits have evaded, the commander questions if they are sentient before the command vehicle is struck. And we then see that these new bits are apparently even more powerful than the ones we see later in the timeline. The sword strikes the vehicle, and then we see what appears to be lines of lightning strike out from it, and into the mobile workers and mobile suits nearby, causing a cascade of explosions that seems to take them all out.
I'm almost wondering if the sword itself was a nuke there, but likelier just whatever ammunition is there also cooked off for that, because we do see like multiple sources involved there, right?
Well, again, it's
not
like
just one huge one.
Well, no, it's like it seems to emanate from the sword, like a cascade of lightning strikes that spreads out.
Right, but I'm mostly mentioning like the bottom left panel here, where you don't see just like one central explosion. There's actually about 4 of them around a central point.
Well, no, that's the individual. As I said, it's...
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying the lightning just spans out and hits the mobile workers and the mobile suits, so the explosions are each individually exploding.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I don't think. Yeah, I guess you just didn't explain your. I thought it was a nuke thing, because no, I didn't think that at all. So it was very confusing to me. For the viewer, even though I'm looking this way, the manga panel you're seeing next to us, I'm not looking at. I'm in fact looking at a notepad of only words. So when Griff goes back to describe something to me, I'm just working on memory now. I have no idea what he's looking at.
That's right. We're all relying on Theta's brain today.
Right, so when you say, I didn't think it was a nuke, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. I just remember lightning comes from the sword, and then we see everything blow up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it. No thoughts. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's all. It's a whole bunch of action. It's hard to get into the narrative of, they just explode some more.
Next page. It looks like we had to have one more cool profile shot of the Gundam as it hovers in midair above the battlefield, completely untouched by the looks of it. It does have a savior pose as the sword bits fly back into its hands. Which I guess is where I was confused about your sword was a nuke thing. It's like, it's not, because it doesn't get destroyed. It flies right back to it.
Right. But still, this is definitely the buy the toy image frame right here. But it is so cool. And also, traditionally, this kind of thing is like also the end of the combat. We should be getting into some talking next, I think, if I remember right.
You're actively looking at it.
I'm actively looking at it. We're getting towards the actual content now. Well, I mean, the actual story narrative part of it, not just the fight.
Reattaching themselves to its arms, we then zoom in on the cockpit. Sometimes I just typo myself out. Where the obvious is made slightly more clear, as the display inside reads Permit Score 3. So already at the limit Nadim died reaching. The viewer shows the wreckage of the battle below as we peer through a floral wreath being held by the pilot. Pointedly, the left hand is glowing with permit use as well. Despite this being enough to kill some people, they seem to be humming a tune.
Right, I think this is definitely a good first impression here of what kind of pilot we're about to get here. Someone who maybe has an artistic streak or doesn't take things seriously, and in the next panel, I think we're going to get the full visual.
Spinning the camera around to look back from the other angle, we see someone not all that different from Kyu, glowing with permit lines and singing a song to themselves that could well just be made up on the spot, as I couldn't find any lyrics to match it in the current songs that exist. If it is being made up by our pilot, then all the better to analyze and pick out clues. It would seem to me that they are singing about the explosions they've just been flying through and the fragility of the combatants they've just faced. Additionally, it might indicate that the name of the Gundam is Anakta, as it seems like they are referring to their gun bits attack as Anakta's tide.
Yeah, I think that's definitely accurate, but this does remind me of something, and not just like the cutesy singing, but the way that they imply like the popping of the soap bubbles, like reminds me of the prologue. Oh, look at all the candles! I don't know, blow out all the candles, Theta.
Yeah, no, that's where I got the thought that they were talking about the explosions. That they're talking about the rocket's explosions as soap bubbles.
Right, but there is an endearing innocence to all of this, despite the very, very brutal high-speed attack right there.
Realizing the fight is over, they huff in regret, knocking the wreath off of their head as the permit lines retreat from their body, indicating that they are out of time and wanted to connect more. They suggest that their time is limited by stingy adults, which suggests that their ability to control the Gundam in its powered-up state is being reduced. This makes me think of the Elans, given this character and Kyu seem to be so much alike, and the previous panel displaying the permit score also had an indicator towards the pilot's chest, a symbol towards all the heart illusions, perhaps?
Mhm. Uh, what I almost think like the stingy adults almost refers to is like the maybe not just whoever's controlling the mechanism here, but also like maybe the targets themselves. Like, oh, these adults are so stingy. They didn't last long enough, you know? Which would definitely make it even darker in sentiment with all the cutesy on top of it. Also, I think something that I probably will bring up now that we saw on the previous panel and this one more clearly, the outfit they're wearing is definitely very military, maybe guerrilla style or something, right? They have like the full vest on, they got their radio directly attached to them, and they got like the pouches all over too. So they came here for the fight. This is not at all a Kyu situation where they have where you know it's they've been forced to do so. It's like no, they came here for it. There's a lot of intentional operation, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I know. It just seems like such a laughable comment. Yeah, of course they came here for the fight that they initiated. We then get a radio transmission congratulating and identifying the pilot as Yoshika. The voice of the radio is also identified as Doctor, meaning that maybe more witches exist out in the wild than we previously thought. Ecstatic at the praise, Yoshika claims that they can break things too, though maybe not as good as Kewpie, which sounds very much like a pet name for Q. We then learn that this pair has been investigating the attack on Baja Calico. Sorry, I said you'd really like the next chapter. I forgot that was in this chapter. Baja Calico Station, which likely means our California-Nevada guest wasn't too far off. You know, yep. Baja California. And we and have grainy, static-filled footage of the event.
Yep, they're slowly tying things together. I believe that this is more or less the aside from the introduction, the implication that this is going to be our antagonist for the series getting introduced here. At least our mobile suit antagonist. Whoever's doing the organizing here, the other doctor, is going to be very fun. We were talking about Evil Vilda earlier.
No, I think this is more likely going to be our Viral. Our Viral versus our Spiral King. So not quite our big bad.
Yeah, there might be more in the future. But this is where we're starting off.
Which is when we, the viewer, see the Jiu in the act of stealing the batteries from a few chapters prior. Yoshika even stating that it is indeed Q, their eyes looking the same as Q's as well.
They are turning into a very adorable little mercenary here, that's for sure.
No thoughts?
No, not that one in particular.
On our final page, we hear that the route that our main characters have been taking is being traced, and that Yoshika can hardly wait to catch up. No doubt indicating that these are the people that have been, that they've been running from all this time.
There you go. Mystery solved.
Not really. Is barely scratched the mystery. All we know is that there's a child piloting a mobile suit, or a Gundam rather. We have no idea who the people chasing them are.
But I think since it's already declared that they're going to be going after them, they're chasing after their escape route and everything. The juxtaposition of this entire reveal here is just really, really good to me. Like the brutal attack followed by like the constant implications of what they're doing, which is like this wonderfully adorable, flowery, girly little presentation here on top. Just really comes together to like increase the amount of dread of what might be to come. What are your thoughts?
I really only left myself off with one major thought, which was, so did Villa take Q from a still existent Ox Earth operation?
I think given all the commentary we've done so far today, since it's on top of my mind, I think that's absolutely accurate now. Where else would... Oh, I'm sorry. where else would all these Gundams come from? Where else are all the genetic kids coming from? It's more Oxford shenanigans. We know that they're there. We know they're up to stuff.
I
And
mean,
we've
you
been
say
stated
all.
like these are the precursor Gundams. Who are they tested with?
I didn't say they're a precursor. I'm going to cover. I'll go back to that one. You said where all these genetic kids are coming from. 2. We've gotten 2 so far. So it's not like we have a whole army of genetic kids. We've only seen 2. And I didn't say precursor. I said pre-production model, which
If I had a
we've
nickel,
seen at least 4 pre-production models in the prologue alone.
if I had a nickel for every weird genetically modified kid in a Gundam in this series, I'd have 2, which not a lot, but weird it's happened twice.
Yeah, you fucked that one up. If it's any weird genetically modified kid inside of a Gundam that was the mind of their sibling, I'd have 2, but it's one weird that's happened twice. You forgot the whole my sibling is part of this.
So I think this does just leave us to speculate about like the exact relationships between everyone. The doctors seem obvious if they're just a part of an organization, but whether Kiyu and this new character are directly related or just happen to be from the same organization program, I think is yet to be seen. I'll probably need to write down Yoshika somewhere and remember that.
Okay, you do that. Anyway, the I don't know, commentable things. Anyway, the idea that previous chapters had given us that Dr. Ricardo Nobel had been pushing to start this whole the Vanadis Institute and everything like that, right? That she went out and recruited people like Vilda to head up operations and whatnot could just be the indicator that she has been recruiting more people. That our perspective has just been Vilda's perspective on the matter, and not the hey, nice to meet you all. I'm here to join the company. You know, the moment. We haven't seen the moment where she meets everybody else yet.
You know, that would be a hilarious little chapter to just like go from all this Gundam that we're doing here and just do like a slice of life office chapter where they're just like going through a day at work or something. That would be.
Yeah, I think you jumped to a cabin in the woods situation. What I meant to indicate was a flashback.
Yeah.
To when she gets introduced to everybody that she then absconds with a child and runs away from.
Yeah, I think we're definitely due for that in the future, at the very least. So I think that probably covers everything that's at least on my mind, and I think you've gotten everything out of your system too, right? Then in that case, I think that probably wraps it up for Vanada's Heart for this month. This has been a fun little action chapter, and you already got me excited for the next one, so I hope everyone else is too. So everybody, this has been Stoneface Reactions. I'm Griffin, that's Theta, and we'll catch you next time. See you around. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video and what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?